Hi, I'm Melanie. Welcome back to our house to homestead. Join my family and I as we convert our house on the outskirts of Auckland, New Zealand into a homestead where we grow, harvest and cook our own food from scratch. Another wet day here, and as we approach into winter I thought it would be really appropriate to make something called fire cider. Now it's not an alcoholic drink at all, it's made with apple cider vinegar and it's a tonic that we can use when we're feeling unwell, but also something that we can prepare for winter chills by warding off any bugs that do approach us. It uses really simple ingredients that you'll probably have in the cupboard and maybe a few special things that you might want to add in there. So join me as we jump into the kitchen and we stay out of that cold weather outside and we make fire cider. So this is a brew that I've made previously, and essentially it's a mixture of cold and flu fighting ingredients fermented in apple cider vinegar, and it ferments in the apple cider vinegar for around about 6 weeks minimum, and then after that you can take it as a daily tonic or you can take it at the first sign of a cold or flu, or when you're just feeling like the winter chills are near. It's pretty potent. The mixture of garlic, ginger and chilli are pretty punchy with a side of acid from the vinegar. However, it actually tastes really delicious and it's easy to go down. You can sweeten it with honey at the end. I choose not to, but it's definitely an option if that makes it more palatable for you. Sadly, I've got a couple of ingredients missing. Turmeric. Fresh turmeric would definitely be at the top of my list if I could have put it in. And the other thing that we don't have here is fresh horseradish root. It's not really something I've seen very often in New Zealand. Maybe I'm not looking in the right places. If you know of somewhere where you can get it in New Zealand, please let me know. I think I can grow it here, but I haven't looked into too much detail, so it's definitely something I need to look into. But adding fresh horseradish root, if you have it, is really good for kicking colds and flus in the butt. If you can imagine how potent chilies, ginger and garlic are, horseradish takes it to the next level. I'm wanting to start by straining this old brew out and popping it into an amber coloured bottle so that I can use it. I've just been dipping a spoon in here, which is totally fine, but I get bits of things all the time and I'm really wanting to use this jar for the next brew. So I'm going to double strain it, first with a big sieve. If you have a cheesecloth, that is totally ideal. It smells so good. It's definitely a mixture of like the spiciest pickled onions you've ever smelled in your life. So I'm just gonna push that down to try and extract as much goodness as we possibly can. Everything's nice and soft now. I made this in November, so it's about easily 6 months old. Now for the second straining, I'm just going to use a funnel, and I have a really fine tea strainer here which I'm going to use. Again, if you use cheesecloth, you don't need to do this step at all. I would just tip it all into the cheesecloth and let it drain there overnight. It actually smells so good. So I think it's safe to say we're not going to fit much more in there. And now all I need to do, I can keep storing it in a cupboard. Ideally you want to keep it out of the light. The amber bottle does help. I'm going to pop it back into my pantry. First of all, I need to label it. And I'm going to put the date that I made it on there. Awesome. Now to make the new brew of the fire cider, I literally just need to layer all of these ingredients into this jar. Then I'm going to cover, at the very minimum, cover with apple cider vinegar, pop the lid on, label, and like I said, leave it for at least 6 weeks before I can start using it. So hopefully I've got enough in that little amber bottle to keep me going until then. So these onions are actually from my own garden. I had a go at growing onions this year and I'm pretty happy with the result. They're a lot of work, they take up lots of space, but it is pretty rewarding when you forget about them for a little while and then you see actual onions forming. Wow, it's so pleasing seeing them so white and beautiful. So the reason that onions are included in fire cider is that they definitely reduce swelling and they contain all sorts of compounds really that help with cold and flus. Quercetin is one of them, which reduces inflammation. It doesn't matter how big or small you chop them up, it's going to be sitting and infusing into the apple cider vinegar for so long that all of the goodness will come out. Obviously you want to cut it small enough though that it is going to be pickled and it's not going to go off in there. That's a perfect pickled onion size. Next we're going to go in with our garlic cloves. I'm going to use this whole bulb of garlic. Garlic is going to have antimicrobial effects, so adding it into this brew means that as we take it, it protects our throat and our respiratory system from any bacteria or fungal or possibly viral infections that we may be exposed to. I remember as a kid, Mum rubbing a garlic clove on the soles of our feet because we would refuse to eat them raw. And then the next morning it would taste like we had garlic in our mouth anyway. It's so incredible how it can move through your system like that. So all I'm going to do here, I'm not so worried about chopping, I'm going to crush. I find that crushing releases way more of the oil because it's breaking more of the cells. Crush, and then I'm going to peel. Garlic so fiddly. And pop them in. Alrighty, next we're going in with our chilli. These were all I could find today. Previously I've frozen chilies when I've had a bumper crop and I was really proud of them and they were so strong, so spicy. Unfortunately we had a cyclone in New Zealand a couple of months ago and we went without power for I think it was 10 days in the end. So it meant everything in the freezer got ruined. So today I'm just using these green chilies. If you can find something hotter, totally go there. And if you can't, just use what you've got. I'm putting the seeds in as well. So with chilies, they contain capsaicin, and obviously the spicier they are, the more capsaicin they contain. And it's the capsaicin that breaks down the mucus when we do have a cold or flu, and breaking down the mucus means that we don't cough as much and may relieve a sore throat. If you're a lemon honey drink person, when you've got a cold or flu, then you will know about ginger. Ginger can be added to your lemon honey drinks, and Essentially, again, it's anti-inflammatory and antibacterial, so it helps to fight any of those bugs that we come in contact with. The anti-inflammatory definitely soothes our throat. I think too, personally, when I have fresh ginger or ginger that's been pickled like this, it's very potent and it definitely clears my nasal passages as well. I'm going to cut this up fine. For the previous brew, I grated it and that definitely works. Obviously it's increasing the surface area, but I don't think it was necessary. Now I'm going to add in our citrus. I like to use the rind. This obviously has antimicrobial properties as well. If you think of using citrus cleaners, they definitely are antimicrobial, but we can use the oils in the rind for exactly the same purpose, but ingest it. I'm also going to add in the rind of an orange for the same reason. The final thing to do now is to cover this with apple cider vinegar. And the apple cider vinegar that you want to use needs to contain the mother. Basically, I've got an organic and raw apple cider vinegar here, and it's got little floaty bits in it, and it says it contains the mother, so it's unpasteurized. That's my recommendation. Then the apple cider vinegar will contain probiotics for you, but also we know that it's got everything it needs in there to allow everything in here to ferment successfully. So I'm going to pop the lid on now, and my job in the next 6 weeks is to turn this each day and mix it around to make sure that all of the ingredients are having all of their nutrients extracted out of it into the vinegar. If I see that things are expanding and I need to top it up with vinegar, I will, but it's likely that they're floating on the bottom, so it's just a matter of mixing and making sure everything's coated so it doesn't go off. And that's that. So I'm going to pop a label on this now, and then I'm going to pop it in my pantry. Obviously this glass isn't amber, and so I don't want any of the nutrients to be affected by any light outside. I want to retain all of the goodies in here. So I'm going to pop it in the pantry in the dark, and it's a reasonably cool, stable temperature in there. And I'm going to invert it each day, and then it is good to go in 6 weeks time, when I can strain it if I want to and pop it in a bottle like the previous one. Or if you're like me and you're lazy, you'll just dip a spoon in here and push everything around to get what you want. Make sure it's a clean spoon. Thanks for joining me to make fire cider. Please hit subscribe and comment below if there's a recipe that you'd like to know what to do and how to make. Otherwise, catch me again for another episode soon. Details for any products and equipment used are in the description below. Hit subscribe to follow along with all of the developments on our house to homestead. I'll be posting more videos on growing, harvesting, and cooking our food. Don't miss out. See you next week, team.